April 3rd, 1984, 8:15 p.m. Chasen's restaurant, Beverly Hills. 100 people packed into the private dining room, all there to celebrate Marlon Brando's 60th birthday. Jack Nicholson stands at the head table, champagne glass raised, grinning that famous grin. "To Marlon," he says, his voice carrying over the laughter and conversation, "the greatest actor who ever lived, the man who taught us all what it means to be real on screen." The room erupts in applause. Brando sits at the center of it all, wearing a black suit that feels like a straitjacket, forcing a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Nicholson continues his toast, but Brando isn't listening anymore. He's watching these people, celebrities, executives, hangers-on, and all he can think is, "I don't know any of you, and you don't know me." He stands up abruptly. The room goes silent. "I can't do this," Brando says quietly. "I'm sorry," and he walks out. Mid-toast, mid-party, mid-celebration. Nobody follows him because nobody understands. But what Marlon Brando does in the next 8 hours, driving to Venice Beach, sitting next to a homeless Vietnam veteran planning suicide, talking until dawn, will change both their lives forever. And 5 years later, it will explain why the greatest actor in the world simply stopped acting. To understand why Marlon Brando walked out of his own birthday party, you need to understand where he was in April 1984. He was 60 years old, overweight, tired. He'd just finished filming The Cotton Club, a production so chaotic and miserable it had drained whatever love he had left for the craft. He was making movies for money now, nothing else. The passion was gone, the purpose was gone. All that was left was the weight of being Marlon Brando, and it was crushing him. His personal life was a disaster. 2 failed marriages, estranged children, a sprawling estate in the Hollywood Hills that felt more like a prison than a home. He woke up every morning and asked himself, "Is this it? Is this what I worked for?" The birthday party wasn't his idea. His agent had organized it. "Marlon, you're turning 60. We should celebrate. Invite some people. Make it an event." Brando had agreed because saying no felt like more work than saying yes. But the moment he walked into Chasen's and saw the setup, the decorations, the hired photographer, the table full of people who wanted to be seen with him more than they wanted to actually see him, he knew he'd made a mistake. He sat through dinner barely eating. He smiled for photos. He shook hands. He listened to people tell stories about him that weren't true or were true but didn't matter. And then Jack Nicholson stood up to give his toast. Jack meant well. Jack always meant well. But when he said, "the greatest actor who ever lived," Brando felt something break inside him, because he didn't feel like the greatest anything. He felt like a fraud, a man who'd spent 40 years pretending to be other people because being himself was too painful. So he stood up, said, "I can't do this. I'm sorry," and walked out. The room erupted in confused whispers. Jack stood there, champagne glass still raised, looking stunned. Brando's agent chased him into the parking lot. "Marlon, what are you doing? You can't just leave your own birthday party." Brando stopped, turned, looked him in the eyes. "Watch me." He got in his car, a beat-up 1978 Dodge pickup truck, nothing fancy, nothing that screamed movie star, and started driving. He didn't know where he was going. He just drove. He ended up in Venice Beach. It was almost 11 p.m. The boardwalk was mostly empty, just a few stragglers, some homeless people sleeping on benches. Brando parked and got out. He walked along the beach, listening to the waves, breathing in the salt air. This was the only place in Los Angeles where he felt anonymous, where he could just be a man, not an icon. That's when he saw him. A man sitting on a bench about 50 yards away, hunched over, shaking. Even from a distance, Brando could tell something was wrong. The man's body language screamed pain. Brando had seen that kind of pain before. His mother had looked like that during her worst episodes. Brando walked over. The man was younger than Brando, maybe early 40s, wearing a dirty green army jacket and torn jeans. His hair was long and unkempt. His hands were trembling. He was crying, quiet sobs that shook his whole body. Brando sat down on the bench, leaving a respectful distance between them. "You okay, buddy?" The man didn't look up. "No, I'm not." Brando nodded. "You want to talk about it?" The man finally looked at him. His eyes were red, haunted. "Why do you care?" "Because I'm sitting on a beach at 11 o'clock at night instead of being at my own birthday party. So I'm not doing too great either. Maybe we can be not okay together." The man stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "You're Marlon Brando." "I am." "What the hell are you doing here?" "Running away from my life. What about you?" The man looked back at the ocean. "Planning to end mine." Brando's heart stopped. He'd expected a lot of answers, but not that one. "You mind if I ask why?" The man shrugged. "Why not?" Got nothing else to do for the next, he checked his watch, hour or so. What happens in an hour? I walk into the water, don't come back out. Brando sat there, processing that. Then he said, can I ask you to postpone that? Just for tonight. Talk to me first. Then if you still want to do it, I won't stop you. The man looked at him again, studying his face. You serious? Dead serious. I'm Marlon. What's your name? Danny. Danny Kelso. Nice to meet you, Danny. Now tell me your story. And Danny did. For the next 5 hours, from 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., two men sat on a bench in Venice Beach and talked. Not celebrity to fan, not actor to audience, just two human beings trying to figure out how they'd ended up so lost. Danny started talking, and once he started, he couldn't stop. I'm 41 years old, he said. Marine Corps, 1966 to 1972. 3 tours in Vietnam. I was a sergeant, infantry. Saw things nobody should see, did things nobody should do. Came home in 72 with a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, and a head full of shit I can't get rid of. Brando listened. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I got back, I tried. I really tried. Got a job at a factory, got married, had a daughter, but I couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop seeing faces, couldn't stop hearing the screams, started drinking to make it stop, lost the job, wife left, took my daughter. I haven't seen my kid in 8 years. She's 13 now, doesn't even know who I am. Where is she? San Diego, with her mom and her mom's new husband. Good guy, apparently. Better than me. You try to contact them? Danny laughed bitterly. What am I going to say? Hey, remember me? The drunk who used to wake up screaming every night? Miss me? No, she's better off. You believe that? I have to. Brando nodded slowly. What about the VA? They help you? Danny snorted. The VA? Yeah. They gave me pills that didn't work and therapy that made it worse. Told me I was fine, that I just needed to adjust. How do you adjust to killing people? How do you adjust to watching your friends die? They don't have a pill for that. So you ended up here. So I ended up here. Been homeless for 3 years. Sleep on the beach, eat at shelters, try to score enough for a bottle every day so I can pass out and not dream. And tonight I'm tired, man. I'm so fucking tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Brando was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I get it. Danny looked at him skeptically. You get it? You're Marlon Brando. You're rich, famous. You got everything. I got everything except a reason to keep going, Brando said quietly. You know what I was doing before I came here? Sitting in a room full of people celebrating my life, and all I could think was how much I wanted it to be over. Not in the way you mean, but over. The pretending, the performance, the weight of being this person everyone thinks they know, but nobody actually does. Danny stared at him. You're serious. I'm serious. I've been acting since I was 19 years old. 41 years of pretending to be someone else because being myself was too hard. And now I'm 60, and I look at my life, and I don't recognize it. I don't recognize me. So yeah, Danny, I get it. Different circumstances, same emptiness. They sat in silence for a while. Then Danny said, Why'd you walk out of your party? Because it felt like a funeral. Everyone standing around talking about who I used to be, what I used to mean. But I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not dead yet, but I might as well be. So I left. And you came here. And I came here. Best decision I made all night, because I met you. Danny shook his head. I'm not special, man. I'm just another broken vet. You're not broken, Brando said firmly. You're hurt. There's a difference. Broken means can't be fixed. Hurt means healing is possible. I've been hurt for 12 years. When does the healing start? I don't know, but I know it doesn't start at the bottom of the ocean. Danny looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, You really give a shit, don't you? I do. Why? Brando thought about it. Because my whole life, people have cared about Marlon Brando the actor, but nobody cares about Marlon Brando the man. And I'm tired of that. So maybe I want to be a man tonight instead of an actor. And maybe you're the first person I've met in a long time who doesn't give a shit about my movies. Danny laughed, a real laugh this time. I've never seen any of your movies. Perfect. Let's keep it that way. Around 1 a.m., Brando asked, Tell me about Vietnam, not the war. You. What were you like before? Danny leaned back. I was a kid from Bakersfield, worked on my dad's farm, played football in high school, got drafted in 66, 18 years old. Thought I was going to save the world. Came back and couldn't even save myself. What happened over there? Danny's hands started shaking. You don't want to know. I do, if you want to tell me. Danny was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking about patrols through the jungle, about ambushes, about watching friends die, about the things he had to do to survive, about the faces he couldn't forget. There was this kid, Danny said, his voice breaking. Vietnamese kid, maybe 10 years old. He ran at us during a firefight. I thought he had a grenade. I shot him. Turned out he was just scared, running from the gunfire. I killed a kid, Marlon, a fucking kid, and I see his face every single night." Brando didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. He just put his hand on Danny's shoulder and let him cry. When Danny finally stopped, he wiped his eyes and said, "Sorry, you didn't sign up for this." "I sat down on this bench," Brando said. "I signed up exactly for this." Around 2 a.m., Danny turned the tables. "What about you? What are you running from?" Brando hesitated. He'd spent his entire life avoiding this question, but something about sitting on a beach at 2 a.m. with a man who'd just told him his darkest secrets made him want to be honest. "I'm running from myself," Brando said, "from the fact that I've spent 40 years being other people, and I have no idea who I actually am. I don't know what I believe. I don't know what I want. I don't even know if I like acting anymore. So why do you keep doing it? Because it's all I know. Because people expect it. Because—" Brando paused. "Because I'm afraid if I stop, there won't be anything left." Danny nodded. "Yeah, I get that. When I got back from Vietnam, people kept saying, 'You're a hero. You served your country.' But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a killer. And I thought, if I'm not a Marine, what am I? Turns out, nothing." "You're not nothing, Danny. Neither are you, Marlon. But we both think we are, don't we?" Brando looked at him, startled by the accuracy. "Yeah, we do." Around 3 a.m., Danny said something that changed everything. "You think you're helping me tonight, but you're running from something too, aren't you?" Brando nodded slowly. "Yeah, I am." "What?" "The truth. That I hate my life. That acting doesn't mean anything to me anymore. That I've been going through the motions for 10 years, collecting paychecks, pretending to care, and tonight, at that party, I realized I can't do it anymore. So stop." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" Brando opened his mouth to answer, then closed it, because he didn't have a good reason. "I don't know." Danny smiled sadly. "You know what I figured out tonight, talking to you?" "What?" "Courage isn't going to war. I did that, and it broke me. Courage is waking up every day after the war and choosing to live anyway. That's the hard part, the real fight." Brando stared at him. "Say that again." "Courage is waking up every day and choosing to live, even when it hurts, even when you don't want to. That's courage." Brando felt something shift inside him. Because Danny was right. The hardest role he'd ever played wasn't Stanley Kowalski or Vito Corleone. It was Marlon Brando, the man, and he'd been failing at it for years. "You just taught me something," Brando said quietly. "Yeah? What?" "What real courage looks like. And it's not pretending to be brave on camera. It's what you're doing right now, sitting here, still breathing, still fighting." Danny looked out at the ocean. "I don't feel brave. The bravest people never do." They sat in silence for a long time. The sky was starting to lighten. Dawn was coming. Around 4 a.m., the Brando said, "Come home with me." Danny blinked. "What?" "Come home with me. Stay at my house. Let me help you." "Marlon, I can't." "Yes, you can. You said you're tired. So stop fighting alone. Let someone help. Let me help." "Why would you do that?" Brando looked him in the eyes. "Because I left my birthday party feeling sorry for myself. Then I met you, and you have real problems, real pain, and you're still here, still fighting. That puts my bullshit in perspective. So let me do this, not for you, for me, because I need to feel like I did something real tonight." Danny stared at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You really mean that?" "I really mean that." Danny looked at the ocean one more time. The sun was just starting to peek over the horizon. He'd planned to walk into that water. Now he was being offered a way out. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." Brando stood up and extended his hand. Danny took it. They walked to Brando's truck and drove to Mulholland Drive, to Brando's sprawling estate. Danny stepped out of the truck and looked around, overwhelmed. "This is where you live?" "This is where I hide," Brando said. "Come on." He showed Danny to a guest room, clean sheets, soft bed. Danny sat down on it and immediately started crying again. "I haven't slept in a real bed in 3 years, he said. "You will tonight," Brando said, "and every night after, for as long as you need." Danny stayed for 9 months. Those 9 months changed both their lives. Brando got Danny into therapy, real therapy, with a psychiatrist who specialized in PTSD. He paid for it out of his own pocket. Danny resisted at first. "I've tried therapy, it doesn't work." But Brando insisted. "Try it one more time. For me." It worked. Slowly. Danny started processing the trauma, started understanding it wasn't his fault, started learning to live with the memories instead of running from them. They developed a routine. Every morning they'd have coffee together on the deck overlooking the canyon. Danny would talk about his nightmares. Brando would talk about his fears. They became friends, real friends, not actor and fan, not celebrity and starstruck nobody. Just 2 men helping each other stay alive. One night, about 3 months in, Danny said, "You know what's weird? I came here thinking you were saving me. But I think we're saving each other. Brando smiled. I think you're right. What are you running from, Marlon? Really? Brando thought about it. I'm running from the fact that I don't want to be Marlon Brando anymore. I want to be, I don't know, just a man. Someone who matters because of what he does, not because of who he played in a movie 30 years ago. So do it. Do what? Stop being Marlon Brando. Be just a man. It's not that easy. Danny shook his head. It's exactly that easy. You're just scared. And he was right. Brando was terrified. In August 1984, Brando did something he'd been avoiding for months. He helped Danny reconnect with his daughter. Danny's daughter Sarah was 13 years old, living in San Diego with her mother. She hadn't seen her father in 8 years, didn't know if he was alive or dead. Brando called Danny's ex-wife. Mrs. Kelso, my name is Marlon Brando. I'm a friend of your ex-husband's. There was a long pause. Is this a joke? No, ma'am. Danny's been staying with me. He's getting help. He's getting better. And he'd like to see his daughter, if you'll allow it. Another long pause. Danny's alive? He is. Yeah, and he's ready to be a father again. A week later, Danny and Sarah met in a park in San Diego. Brando drove him there, but stayed in the car, watching from a distance. Sarah was tall for 13, with Danny's eyes. She approached her father cautiously. Danny stood there, trembling, not knowing what to say. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Dad. They stood there for a moment. Then, Sarah started crying and ran into his arms. Danny held her and sobbed. Brando watched from the car, tears streaming down his own face. After that, Danny saw Sarah every weekend. Brando paid for his gas to drive to San Diego, paid for dinners, paid for everything. Not because Danny asked, because Brando wanted to. In December 1984, Danny moved out. He'd gotten a job at a studio as a security guard. Brando had made a call, pulled some strings. He'd saved enough for an apartment. Small, nothing fancy, but it was his. The night before Danny left, they sat on the deck one more time. I don't know how to thank you, Danny said. You already did. How? You taught me what I'd forgotten. That life isn't about being somebody. It's about being present, being real, being honest. You saved my life, Danny. You just don't know it. Danny shook his head. I'm the one who was going to drown myself. You pulled me out. And you pulled me out of something worse, a life I didn't want to live anymore. You showed me there's another way. They hugged, two men who'd met on a beach, both planning to die in different ways, both still alive because they'd found each other. In 1986, Marlon Brando stopped acting. He didn't announce it, didn't make a big statement. He just stopped taking roles. When asked why, he'd say, I'm not interested anymore. But the truth was deeper than that. Danny had taught him what real courage looked like. And Brando realized that spending the rest of his life pretending to be other people wasn't courageous. It was cowardice. The bravest thing he could do was stop performing and start living. He spent the next years traveling, writing, spending time with his children, trying to repair relationships he'd neglected. He became an activist for Native American rights. He learned to play the drums. He read books. He lived. And every month, he called Danny. How are you doing, buddy? Good, Marlon. Real good. Sarah and I went to the beach last weekend. She's applying to colleges. That's wonderful. How are you? I'm good too. I'm really good. And he was. In 1993, a journalist doing a piece on Vietnam veterans somehow found out about Danny's connection to Brando. He tracked Danny down and asked for an interview. Danny agreed, but only if he could tell the whole story. Marlon Brando saved my life, Danny said. April 3rd, 1984. I was sitting on a beach planning to kill myself. He sat down next to me and talked to me for 5 hours. Then he took me home, let me stay for 9 months, got me help, helped me find my daughter, gave me a reason to live. The journalist scribbled notes furiously. That's an amazing story. But here's the thing, Danny said. I think I saved his life too. He was drowning in fame, in expectations, in being Marlon Brando. And that night on the beach, I showed him there's more to life than that. We both got sober that night, me from war, him from Hollywood. The article came out in Rolling Stone. It went viral. Reporters called Brando for comment. He gave one statement, one interview, and then never spoke about it again. Danny Kelso taught me what courage is, Brando said. It's not playing a tough guy on screen. It's waking up every day with trauma, with pain, with memories you can't escape, and choosing to live anyway. After I met Danny, I realized acting felt like a lie, so I stopped lying. I started living, and I've never been happier. On July 1st, 2004, Marlon Brando died at his home in Los Angeles. He was 80 years old. The funeral was small, private, but among the mourners was a 61-year-old man in a suit that looked uncomfortable on him. Danny Kelso. He'd driven up from San Diego with his daughter Sarah, now 33, and a social worker helping veterans with PTSD. Danny stood at the podium and gave a eulogy that made everyone in the room cry. 20 years ago, Marlon Brando saved my life, but not the way you think. He didn't give me money. He didn't give me fame. He gave me time. 5 hours on a beach, 9 months in his home, 20 years of friendship. And in that time, he taught me something, that we're all just people, rich or poor, famous or forgotten. We're all just trying to survive our own wars. Danny's voice broke. Marlon walked out of his 60th birthday party because he couldn't stand the fakeness anymore. And he found me, a broken Marine who'd given up. We sat on that beach and we both realized we were drowning, and we pulled each other out. That's the truth. I didn't save him. He didn't save me. We saved each other. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Marlon left me something in his will. I want to read it. Danny, 20 years ago, you taught me how to live again. You showed me that courage isn't playing Stanley Kowalski or Vito Corleone. It's waking up every day with PTSD and choosing to keep going. After I met you, acting felt like a lie. So I stopped lying. I started living. And I've never been happier. This money is for you and Sarah. Use it to help other veterans. Build something real. Something that matters. Thank you for saving my life. Marlon Brando. The envelope contained a check for $100,000. Danny folded the letter carefully and put it back in his pocket. Marlon Brando was the greatest actor who ever lived, but that's not why I loved him. I loved him because on April 3rd, 1984, he stopped being an actor and started being a man. And that man changed my life. Today, the Danny Kelso Veterans Center operates in San Diego. Founded in 2005 with Brando's money, it provides free therapy, housing assistance, and job training for homeless veterans. Over the past 19 years, it's helped over 2,000 men and women. On the wall of the main office is a photograph. 2 men sitting on a bench at Venice Beach at dawn, Brando and Danny, the morning after, both of them smiling, both of them alive. Under the photo is a plaque with a quote from Brando. Courage isn't pretending to be brave, it's choosing to live when dying feels easier. Danny taught me that, and it changed everything. Sarah Kelso runs the center now. She's 53 years old. When asked why she dedicates her life to this work, she always gives the same answer. Because Marlon Brando gave me my father back, and my father taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, even when they don't think they deserve it, especially then. The story of Marlon Brando and Danny Kelso isn't a story about a celebrity saving a nobody. It's a story about 2 men who were both drowning, both ready to give up, who found each other at exactly the right moment. Brando could have driven past that beach. He could have ignored Danny. He could have gone home and continued his miserable existence as Marlon Brando, movie star. But he didn't. He sat down. He listened. And in listening, he learned something he'd forgotten. That real life happens when the cameras stop rolling. Danny could have walked into the ocean. He could have refused Brando's help. He could have stayed in his pain. But he didn't. He chose to live. And in choosing life, he gave Brando permission to do the same. April 3rd, 1984 was supposed to be a celebration, a party, a tribute to 60 years of Marlon Brando. Instead, it became something better. The night 2 men stopped performing and started being real. The night they both got sober from the lies they've been living. And that matters more than any movie, more than any Oscar, more than any role Marlon Brando ever played. Because in the end, the greatest performance of Marlon Brando's life wasn't on screen. It was on a beach at midnight, talking to a stranger, choosing connection over celebrity, humanity over fame. And that's the role that saved both their lives.